Shalom, 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 Yasharahla. It's your brother Nechemia, Nechemia from Nations and Kings and Priests, NoKaP Cali section. All right, and we back at you with another class. All right, but first and foremost, I want to say, call Halal Yahweh by HaMashiach. All right, giving all honor and glory to the Heavenly Father in His name, in the name of His only begotten Son Yahwahshi HaMashiac, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. All right, I want to send a mighty shalom to all the Akim out there on the highways and byways, presenting their bodies as living sacrifices, magnifying the name of the Most High to the best of their ability, keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. All right, shalom, 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 Akim. Keep putting in the work, keep being sincere, keep being diligent, and let's keep enduring in this thing. Shalom. All right, I want to send another mighty shalom to all the Akwathium out there, reverencing their husbands, being submissive, being sincere, being diligent. All right, striving to be that 1 Peter chapter 3 woman, striving to be that Ephesians 5 woman, striving to be that Proverbs 31 woman. All right, and walking in the righteous paths of our walking in the paths of our righteous foremothers, and striving to be like our righteous foremothers. Thus saith the scriptures. All right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I also want to send out another mighty shalom to all the Zaquanium, the elders of the Marshara Yasharhala, and all the Zaquanium of out there who've been putting in this work for decades and decades, 10, 20, 30 years and on, really enduring this thing and being being an example for us to how we can endure as well. All right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All right. Now the topic of this class, right, is going to be about sea moss. All right. Sea moss, seaweed, and algae. All right. So the topic of this class and the name of this class, sea moss is unlawful. Sea moss is unlawful according to the dietary law. All right. So let's get into this. Let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, and we're going to start at verse 9 first. All right. And it reads, "These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters." All right. So the Most High is letting us know anything that is in the waters, he's gonna give us what we can eat. These shall ye eat of all, not some, not a little bit, not one or two, all that are in the waters. He's letting us know what we can eat that is in the waters. All right, let's read. "Whatsoever hath fins and scales." So let's stop. He said, "These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters." Everything that is in the waters, this is what you can eat out of everything that is in the waters. "Whatsoever hath fins and scales." So anything else that's in the water is X'd out. He's already letting us know the only thing you can eat that's in these waters is fish. But they have to have the characteristics of fins and scales. It can't have one of the fins and scales. It has to have both fins and scales. So that right there alone is already letting us know the only things that we can eat that's in the water. It's fish that has fins and scales both. That's it. Nothing else. All right, let's read. I'm going to start from the top again. It's Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 9. "These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales, in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers. Them shall ye eat." The ocean, the rivers, the lakes, all of that. It can only be fish that have fins and scales. All right. Let's keep reading. "And all that have not fins and scales." So it's already letting you know. He told us already the only thing we can eat is fish that has fins and scales. Everything else that's in the water is an abomination. Sea moss is not listed. Sea moss is not a fish. Sea moss or Chondrus crispus, the scientific name of it, or Eugenia cottoni, You know, and all these derivatives, there's three different types of there's all different varieties of sea moss, seaweed, or algae out there. You know, they all have their specific scientific names for them as well. You know, you got some that grow in the Atlantic, you got some that grow in Peru. You know, they always grow on the coastal lines of the waters. All right. So the Most High is letting us know what we can already eat that's in the waters, and it can only be fish that have fins and scales. All right, now he's going to let us know in verse 10. Let's read. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. All right. So he letting us know, man, everything that's not a fish, everything that is a creature in the waters that is not a fish or doesn't have fins and scales, hey, it's off limits. Sea moss is off limits. All right. Algae is off limits. Seaweed is off limits. All right. And we're going to get into this even deeper. We're going to get into this. All right. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers. Sea moss grows in the seas. All right. It's attached to rocks. You know, it has to be close to shore because it needs its sunlight in order for it to get carbon dioxide in order for it to produce. You know, plus it has a vital role in taking care of the ocean. It provides 50 to 80% of the oxygen for the ocean. So if you got all these people talking about seaweed, because Dr. Sebi made it popular, and they taking all this sea moss out of the ocean, you're taking the oxygen from the ocean. You're taking food from the fish, and ultimately you're destroying the creation the Most High has put on here for us. All right. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing. Sea moss is a living organism. Sea moss is a living organism. Plus, it moves in the waters. It moves in the waters. He's letting us know. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move, that's including the creatures, that's including the plant life, the sea life, the sea plant life in the waters. They all move. Why? Because the water moves. There's a tide. Anything that moves, sea moss moves, and sea moss is a living thing. It's a living organism. All right, I think I got that. Salakia, I think I got that pulled up. Let me see. Salakia. Let me see. I don't think I got it pulled up. But sea moss is a living organism, man. I don't think I have it pulled up, but we're gonna get into this deeper, man. Let's go back to we're gonna break down verses 9 and 10 real quick. All right. I already said multiple times that we can only eat fish that has fins and scales. Everything else, verse 9 already plainly stated what we can eat that's in the waters. It's already just talking about fish that has fins and scales. Anything else outside of that is off limits. It's off limits. And we're going to get into why we cannot eat sea moss, because it is unclean. It is unclean to us, he said, and all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing, which sea moss is, which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. It's a disgusting thing unto us. It's unclean. Sea moss is unclean. It doesn't even look good. You know, I used to eat that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Until I came across the knowledge of it. Dang, we can't even. Oh, I missed that. You know, so I had to do some repenting. You know, so it's an abomination unto us. It's unclean. We should not touch it. Now let's get into this, man. Let's get into what sea moss is. All right. So what is sea moss? All right. I know what this is, but this is for the edification of the class. What is sea moss? Seaweed. Although it resembles a plant, seaweed is actually a species of algae. Algae is the plural form of the Latin word alga, which means seaweed. The term seaweed is a general term used to describe a wide variety of algae. There are roughly 10,000 species of seaweed. All sea mosses are types of red seaweed known as rhodophytes. One of the largest groups of seaweeds, that's where Chondrus, Salak, if I remember correctly, Chondrus crispus is part of the rhodophytes family, because the anthocyanins it contains will give it that purple, what you'll hear people say called purple sea moss. You know what I'm saying? And that purple color comes from the anthocyanins that's produced within the moss itself. All right. So let's keep reading. One of the largest groups of seaweeds, rhodophytes, is, all right, classified into three major groups. Brown algae, or what you will hear in the sea moss world, is gold Irish sea moss, or gold Irish sea moss. They will call it that, but really it's brown algae, Phaeophyceae, green algae, Chlorophyta, and red algae, Rhodophyta. All right, like terrestrial plants, which is plants that grow on land, apple trees, orange trees, grapes, plants that grow on land that have to be tended to, that have to be taken care of by the hand of Salaki. I'm trying to remember the word. By the hand of a man that is into husbandry, or a gardener, if you want to say that. All types of seaweed and sea moss use sunlight. All right, this is part of the reason why they have to be close to the coastal lines, where they have to be. They can't be too deep into water. You know what I'm saying? They have to be able to get some type of sunlight in order for them to grow. And sea moss use sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to create food. Okay. For this reason, seaweed must grow near the ocean's surface, within the reach of sunlight, to survive. And there must be an abundance of carbon dioxide in the water. Seaweeds absorb water and nutrients in all their tissues directly from the surrounding water. Also, seaweeds are attached to rocks. It gets some of its nutrients from the rocks, alongside with what they just explained, how it gets its nutrients through its tissues. All right. Unlike their terrestrial counterparts, meaning plants that are on land, they don't have the complex system of roots. All right. They don't have the complex system of roots like their counterparts that are on land, like an apple tree, an orange tree, a grapevine. All right, a blackberry vine, raspberry vine. They don't have the plant structure. They don't have the complex system of roots. All right, so they soak up the water and their nutrients through the main part of the how they can, which is through what people will be eating today. Used to obtain their needed nutrients and maintain hydration to survive. So they absorb it through the surface of their leaf and stem-like structures. For this reason, seaweed must constantly be partially or completely submerged. All right, it has to receive that sunlight. If it's not getting that sunlight, it's not going to be able to do its job properly. All right, in the ocean, which is provide oxygen, which is provide, and fish use that as well. It's food for other species in the water. All right. And this is what some algae, seaweed looks like, but I got some other pictures as well. But let's get into this. It says seaweed is autotrophic, which means it produces its own food. What means it don't need a man to grow. The Most High let us know, man, through the scriptures, that we would have to tend to the land. You can't tend to sea moss. Sea moss don't need your help. The Most High created it to do a specific job in the ocean, which is keep the ocean clean, give it oxygen for the ocean to breathe, for the animals to breathe. Why do you think you got fish in there that have gills, that can breathe underwater? They're still getting oxygen. All right. which means it produces its own food using sunlight. Using sunlight. That's just like the Israelites when we sit in the sun. The carbon we receive from the sunlight, we soak it in through our skin. You know what I'm saying? And it produces it into energy. All right, and what they so-called melanin, but really is carbon. You know, that's a whole different topic. But using sunlight, microalgae, seaweed converts carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and sugar, which is, photosynthesis, the process of photosynthesis. All right. So seaweed is the foundation of life for the entire ocean and provides most of the Earth's oxygen. All right. Provides most of the Earth's oxygen, and I'm gonna prove that to you. All right. Irish sea moss and sea moss have a limited leaf and root system designed to anchor itself so it can feed off the ocean's nutrients. So they do not get its nutrients from the rocks that attaches itself. Salakia, I was wrong. They do not get its nutrients. They do not get its nutrients from the rocks that attaches itself to it. So it gets it from the water itself. Salakia, I said it gets some of its nutrients from the rocks. Salakia, that it attaches itself to. If this were the case, then sea moss that is open ocean organically formed would not have the same nutrients verified by laboratory analysis as rock-grown sea moss. All right. So let's go back to the scriptures. So we know that the sea moss is in the water. We know that a sea moss is not a fish. We know it doesn't have fins and scales. All right. We know that it moves in the water, and we know that it's a living organism, obviously, because it produces its own food. It goes through the process of photosynthesis, and that's autotrophic. All right. This is in the waters. This is something that's in the waters. The Most High said already that, hey, if it ain't a fish that got fins and scales, don't touch it. It is an abomination unto you. All right. This is clear. I don't even have to go to any other precepts to prove this point, but we're going to just break this down. It's going to be a light, in-depth breakdown of sea moss, Chondrus crispus, seaweed, algae, Eugenia cottoni, whatever variety that there is out of the three families they derive from. All right. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh. Ye shall not what? Ye shall not eat of their flesh. You can't be eating sea moss, bladderwrack, any other variety of an algae. All right. You can't eat of their flesh. It is an abomination unto you. But ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. All right. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. Look, he didn't triple down. The Most High didn't triple down on this, man. It is an abomination unto us. It is unclean. All right. We can't even touch sea moss. It's not recommended to touch sea moss. All right. It's not recommended to touch sea moss. It's an abomination, and it's a disgusting thing. If you do, like, if you sell sea moss at all, if you're gonna touch it, you should be wearing gloves. If you're gonna deal with it, or if you sell it to heathens, because you can sell it to the heathens. You can definitely sell it to the heathens. All right. I can't remember what precept that is. Maybe I'll bring that out on the class where I'm gonna be talking about and breaking down mushrooms as well. All right. But I'll say that for the next class. But whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. We can't touch it. We can't eat it. All right. So if you eat bladderwrack, you eat sea moss, you eat any variety of sea algae, you got to cut it out. You got to cut it out. Why? Because the Most High said it. And obviously he created it, so he know and obviously when we continue to eat these things at a rapid rate, it's destroying the ecosystem of the ocean. It's destroying the ecosystem in the water, which ultimately means you're killing a whole lot of sea life because you trying to get rid of your thyroid problems. Well, the Most High got herbs for that, because you're trying to excrete mucus out of your body. The Most High has herbs for that. Plants that are on land. You don't need sea moss. The Most High gave us all different varieties of everything to be able to help with each body part in the body, and it's all on land, not in water. All right. So let's go. Let's go back to this. Well, the Salakia. It said it's autotrophic, right? Which means it produces its own food. It doesn't need a human to tend to it. The Most High let us know that we will plow we will, break a sweat for working on the land. You don't got to work anything in the water. Sea moss don't need you to produce its own food. Plus, it has spores. So before I go into the spores, let me go to the before that, let's go to Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 11. All right, and this basically is just clarifying we shouldn't be touching any unclean things. All right, and it says, depart ye, go ye out from thence, touch no unclean thing. Sea moss is unclean. It's an abominable thing to us. Go ye out of the midst of her. Salakia, that's all I really need. Touch no unclean thing. All right. Now, if it's saying in verse 7, right, and the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. All right. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch, they are unclean to you. So if the swine is an abomination and is unclean to us, we should treat sea moss the same way we treat swine. Pork, the same way. All right. So let's go to we're gonna go to Genesis to expound on the fact, right? The difference between before I get into that, Salakia, let me go to the point of, well, we break sweat now to tend to the gardens. You don't need to tend to the sea plant life. We don't tend to that. That's not husbandry. Husbandry is on land. All right. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 18. We're gonna start there. Thorns, Salakia, we'll just start at 18. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. Talking about the garden. All right. The ground, the soil. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field. All right. This is the reason why we have to use herbs to heal ourselves now. Because our forefather Adam and our foremother Eve, they transgressed, they transgressed the commandments. All right. So now we got to eat herbs to be healed from our illnesses now. And it reads in verse 19, in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. I mean, we're going to have to work. We're going to have to till the ground in order to get our fruit, in order to get our bread, in order to gather our flour, our wheat, and so on, our quinoa, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. All right, so let's drop down to verse 23. Therefore the Most High sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground. To till the ground. You can't till sea moss. You can't till sea moss, all right? Sea moss is a plant species, sea life, or sea plant, Salakia. All right, you can't till that. The Most High in Genesis 1 and 29 let us know, man. Look, and it reads, and Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed. Sea moss doesn't bear seed. It has spores. And we're going to get into that. And Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth. All right. And every tree, sea moss is not a tree. In the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, meaning it has to yield its own seed. A seed and a spore are two different things, and we're going to get into that. To you it shall be for meat. All right. He gave us the trees, the herbs for meat. All right. So now let's get into Salakia. Let's get into how they reproduce, all right? How do they reproduce? How does sea moss reproduce itself? All right? Do you gotta take the seeds out of the plant and go plant it in the water, you know, we seen already that sea moss reproduces itself. It doesn't need any help. All right. How do they reproduce? Sea moss does not reproduce as most plants do on land with pretty flowers and tiny pollen. Sea moss reproduces by means of spores. The same thing mushrooms do. That swim off. You hear that? That swim off. They move on their own. Anchored themselves and grow into a new life. So the spore is something that's living too. It just swims off. Anchored themselves and grow into a new life. All right. That's how they reproduce. It's through spores, and they anchor themselves onto rocks close to shore to grow into a new life. All right. Let's keep going, Salakia. Let's keep going. Now, let me show y'all some pictures of what. Let me show y'all what some pictures of sea moss look like. I can't even do it because I don't have my Salakia. I might do this for y'all real quick. I usually have my phone on airplane mode, but I want you to see these pictures. You know, because some people they be trying to contact me, and since I'm on doing this video for y'all for this edification, I'm gonna turn this on so y'all can see what it look like. This is what they would call purple sea moss. All right. Crondus crispus. All right, this was what sea plant that Dr. Sebi made so great, you know. But according to the scriptures, you can't eat this. All right, according to the Leviticus 11, and you know, some people will look at you crazy and be like, "What you mean we can't eat sea moss? You can't eat it. Why? Because the Most High said you can't eat it." All right, Salakia. So there was some pictures, some more Salakia that I was looking at. Khan won't even do it now. Salakia. But that's what it looked like. There was some more pictures I wanted to show y'all because there was a whole slide in here, but since I'm on a trip, we're gonna move on to the next thing. All right. So let's get into what spores are, and then we're gonna end out with how the purpose of sea moss and what it does for the water and the sea life that are in the waters. So let's get this first. Let's get what spores is. You see that? Spores right at the top left. And it reads, a spore is a reproductive structure, cell, or organ of a plant. Fungi, which is where mushrooms derive from, fungus, and algae, which is sea moss, seaweed, bladderwrack, any of the 10,000 varieties of different sea plant life that comes from the three families that was mentioned before. It is capable of reproducing and growing into a new plant without involving fusion with other reproductive structures. So spores are units of asexual reproduction in non-flowering plants, fungi, bacteria, algae, and etc. All right. Non-flowering plants. They don't produce no fruit. Come on. The spores can be of two types, homosporish and heterosporish. In other words, depending on the types of spores produced by a plant, it can be a homosporish or heterosporish. If a plant produces only one type of spores, it is known as homospory. And if it produces two types of spores, male and female spores, it is known as heterospory. All right. So a sea moss could be a male and a female at the same time. It's crazy. All right. So let's go down. Let's get these right here. Let's get the definition, Salakia. Let me go up. I did spores. Let me go up to seeds. All right. And we gonna get the difference between them both. All right. A seed is a ripened oval with a small embryonic plant enclosed in a covering called the seed coat. It is the oval present, Salakia, ovale or oval, we'll just say that, present in the ovary that develops into the seed after fertilization. A seed basically has three parts: an embryo, endosperm, and seed coat, Salakia. However, some seeds lack endosperm. The endosperm is a source of stored food for the growing embryo, and the seed coat comprises one or more protective layers or seed coats to ensure embryo grows into a new plant. The embryo is within the seed itself, all right, without being damaged. It is the integuments of the oval that develop into seed coats. The outer seed coat is called the testa, and the inner seed coat is called the tegmen. In monocots, the seeds have only one cotyledon, whereas in dicots, a seed has two cotyledons. All right, so this is basically letting you know what a seed is. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I'm going to try to keep this class underneath an hour long. All right, so now we know the difference between what a seed is and the difference between what a spore is. All right, a spore reproduces on its own, and it doesn't have the same plant structure as a plant on land. All right, it doesn't have a root structure. You know, spores that grow into new plant life don't have root structures, complex root structures like plants on land do. Plus, they don't flower. They're non-flowering plants, and they're related to fungi, bacteria. All right, so now that we know that, let's get the differences. Some more differences, Slocky. Seeds are produced by flowering plants. Seeds produce flowering plants. All right. Spores are produced by fungi. That's where mushrooms come from. Algae, bacteria, non-flowering plants. Sea moss, bladderwrack, any of the varieties don't produce any fruit. They have a specific purpose in the water for a specific reason the Most High created for them to do. Like we have a specific purpose. All right. Seeds are mostly present inside a fruit. Spores are found underside the leaves of ferns and mosses and gills of the fungi. All right. So you can't eat sea moss. Sea moss doesn't produce seed. The Most High let us know, Salaki, let's go back. In Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29, and Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, not spore. Bearing seed, not spore. All right, Salaki. Which is upon the face of all the earth, on land, not in the water, and every tree in the which is the fruit. The seed is in the fruit, like we just read, of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. The Most High clearly states wheat is supposed to be eating things that bear fruit and have seeds inside of it. Not a spore that's produced by fungi, algae, bacteria, and a non-flowering plant that don't produce no fruit. Didn't the Most High, a lot of us, we ran with Dr. Sebi's understanding of healing, and we didn't read the scriptures. Didn't in the book of Acts chapter 5 verse 29 he say that we obey Yahweh rather than man? Ain't you supposed to be following that? All right. So cut the sea moss out, cut the bladderwrack out, cut all the algae eating that you possibly doing. If you do, cut it out and repent. All right. All right. Now let's go to this last part that we're gonna do. All right. Let's go to this Slakia. Let's go to this last part, and I'm gonna bring out to prove that Salakia, sea moss, seaweed, algae, whatever you want to call it, because there's so many different varieties of it, with all different scientific names and all that it produces 50 to 80% of the oxygen in the water. That's why it grows. If you ever look at a place where next time you see seaweed, sea moss, algae, just think of how important that sea plant is doing for the water and doing for the sea life that is in it. It plays a specific, real important role. All right. So let's read this. Scientists estimate that 50 through 80%, this is an estimate, that 50 through 80% of the oxygen production on Earth comes from the ocean. Why? Let's read. The majority of this production is from oceanic plankton. All right. Drifting plants, algae, and some bacteria that can photosynthesize. Algae photosynthesizes. We just read that. All right. So sea moss has a very important role. You have sea moss being taken out of the water at high rates. High rates. All right. And I'm going to keep it real with you. I have sea moss still that I'm trying to get rid of to heathens. But we can't eat this stuff. We can't eat it. It does more harm to us than it does good. All right. So with that, let's go back to Leviticus chapter 11. Salakia. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 11, right? And let's reread this stuff again. All right. Verse 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. You know how the Most High feel about abominations. Verse 11, they shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. All right. Leviticus chapter 11, verses 8 through 9. Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 11. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 29. All right. Genesis the second chapter. Genesis the third chapter. Those are all precepts. Specifically Leviticus the 11th chapter verses 8 through 12. We cannot eat sea moss. We cannot eat bladderwrack. All right. Now with that, I'm gonna be doing another class on the dietary law. All right. And we're gonna get into mushrooms. We got the sea moss and the bladderwrack and all the varieties of algae out the way. It doesn't matter what variety of sea moss it is. It doesn't matter what seaweed it is. It doesn't matter what kind it is. There's so many different varieties. If it's an algae, don't eat it. Don't touch it. All right. Thus saith the Lord. Thus saith Yahweh. All right. Now with that, it's your brother NoKaPThreasury from Nations and Kings and Priests, NoKaP Cali section. Shalom.